Hello, everyone. It is so good to see you. I had realized I did not plug in my laptop just as I hit go live. So I had to run around and make sure I got that done. It's so good to see you. Hello, Keith. Hello, Nicole. Sinead. I hope I'm getting that right, Miss Fox. It's good that you could join us. Hello, Michelle. Um, let's see, Sabtecha. Hello. It's good to see you. Where is everyone watching from? Yes, indeed. So, Keith, you're from Derbyshire. Very good. um, Derbyshire, sorry, Birmingham, Sinead. Okay, very good. All right, it's good to see you. I'm glad you guys could join us. This is writing and publishing a book for business owners. And I was talking with my colleague offline just as we were getting started. This is I feel like I'm in the wrong business because this is the beginning. Today is the first day of my next session. I'm in a PhD program right now, and I was looking at the books and I was like, holy crap, they're expensive. So I think I gotta get into a different type of book writing because holy moly, they are salty. So for those of you who maybe haven't bought a textbook in a while, they're several $100s, and that has not changed since I was in my bachelor's program way back. All right, so if you are looking to publish a book, you are in the right spot. And this is specifically, I guess I got to share my screen. Sorry about that. Give me one hot second. But if you are in here, and this is specifically for business owners. So if you are a business owner or have any sort of business idea and you want to write about it, this is the course that you need to be in. So if you're looking to establish authority, if you're looking to establish yourself as the voice in whatever space that you're in, I cannot think of a better way to do that than by writing and publishing a book. And I don't mean just like a 30-page pamphlet. I mean writing a book that demonstrates your competence, that allows you to show what it is that you know and get that out into the world. That is a fantastic way for lead generation. That's why I think writing and publishing a book is probably one of the best ways to do that. It's not the only way, but it's one of those credibility indicators that when it puts you side by side with someone else that has not published a book, it automatically elevates you in that person's mind. That's why I don't really advocate for what's been popular over the years of these 80 to 90 page pamphlets that did nothing but promote their own business. I don't think that's the right approach. I think where you just demonstrate your competence and then just say very loosely, have a nice, easy ask at the end, say, hey, look, if you'd like to continue the conversation, drop me an email. Here's my website, something along those lines. But when you're selling and pitching the entire time, I get over that. That gets old really, really fast. And I've read a number of those types of books, and I'll tell you, the people just don't like to be sold to the entire time. If you want to make a light mention, those are the sorts of things. But this is what I'm saying, write really good quality stuff. So what we're going to be talking about today is how to do that. Now, we're not going to get into the specifics of writing. This isn't a writing class. So if you came here to learn how to write better, that's not this. There's going to be certain things I will be talking about in terms of that, but this isn't a writing format session as much as it is just some basics around writing and publishing. I will have an offer at the end if you are interested. I know some of you have already taken advantage of that. Give me 1 second. I'm going to answer that, Sinead. So I do have an offer at the end at this, and some of you took advantage of that offer already. And it's just a writing and publishing course. And so I'll talk about that at the very end. If you're not interested in it, I promise you're not going to hurt my feelings. But I just want to make sure that it was available if you are looking to continue that conversation. So I'm letting you know that now, so you're not like, here's the ask, right? I'll let you know when that's happening so you guys can bail if you're not interested. All right, so let me answer the question. Ingrid, you're from New Orleans. Welcome. Sinead, do you ever worry about giving away the bait without the hook? Giving away the bait without the hook. I don't. And here's why. And that is such a really good question. So let me frame that in a different way, Sinead, because maybe not everybody understands what you're meaning. So way back when, and this was in the 1920s, there were several books that were been published by this guy named Claude Hopkins. He wrote a book called My Life in Advertising, and he wrote another one called Scientific Advertising. Let me grab it off my shelf here. So these are my white books. So they're white. So if you look at my books, I'm going to show you this over here. So if you See, they're all organized by color. And all of my bookshelves are organized by color. But these are my white books, so I always know to look for the white books. But so he wrote Scientific Advertising, and he wrote My Life in Advertising. Scientific Advertising was a book that basically was the how-to of this. Now, keep in mind, I thank you, Sinead. I take ridiculous care about this. So this was, of how I keep my book. So this one was originally copyrighted in 1923, and you can see how I tab all of the important things on here. But the interesting thing that he talked about was, and this is the phraseology that he used, is the market judges you by your samples. It judges you by your samples because it doesn't have anything else to base it on. If you're asking someone to buy your stuff first in order to try it, look, money back guarantees, the reality is many of us, and I will put myself in this boat, but many, many people who I have talked to, they would rather not risk it, even though that there was a money back guarantee, because they don't want to feel stupid. They don't want to feel like they're that guy or that gal who's asking for their money back. Some people don't care, right? Like if my food comes out of the kitchen, and as long as it's not disgusting, I'm going to eat it. Like I just, that's just me, right? But I, most things, my wife's like, yeah, you're a Marine. There's no question that you're a Marine because you'll literally eat anything. And that's pretty true. I'm not that discerning in terms of as long as it's cooked reasonably and it's not moving around on the plate. But the thing is, like, I won't send food back. I'll just eat it. And if I have too many bad meals in a row, I just stop going there. I'm not going to make a big thing of it. I'm not going to ask for a free meal, right? That's just not me. So the main thing is that the market judges you by your samples. So if you're making your prospect buy something in order for them to check you out, that's almost too much of a barrier to ask them to cover, right? So the thing is about the hook, the hook is the sample. This is where you got to keep in mind, when he wrote this back in the 1920s, what was the most common method of selling? It was door-to-door salesmen. These were people who were going and saying, hey, Mrs. Jones, it's so nice to see you today. Here, try this little scourery sponge, and we'll be back tomorrow and see what you think, right? Try it on your pots, try it on your pans, try it on your floor, right? And so she does, and she's like, oh my gosh, this thing's amazing. And he goes back the next day, and she's like, yes, this is great, but it kind of fell apart at the end. She's like, yeah, that was just the sample one. This is a really tiny one. Here's a bigger one, which will hold up, and it should last you about a week, right? He's like, great, I'd love to buy one, right? So that's how that worked. They would give away their samples. And that's the same thing with these books, with these, like, hey, yes, you can hook them, but give them some real stake. Give them some real thing to sink their teeth into rather than just fluff. So I just want to make sure that you understand that, like, my books are really good. And there's some thinner books, right? But they're not meant to be sold on their own. But my last book, this book here, The Time Wealthy Advantage, it's a 300-page book. And it's some of my very best stuff. And some people are getting it for like $20 or like $25, right? That's what I'm saying. People judge you by your samples. So a lot of times it's like, hey, look, buy the book. And if you don't think it was worth it, I'll even give you your money back and you can keep the book if you buy it through my website, right? I'm not here to sell books. That's not the point I'm saying that. I just want you to understand that people will buy things, at that low price threshold or free. Like, think about it. You guys are here today for free, right? You're judging me by the samples that I give away. If I give away crap, you're not going to ever want to come back to me, right? So, and the other reason I say this, and I'm just going to make this last point, and we're going to get started. Well, we kind of already got started, but think about it. Think about it, Sinead. When you, I write and publish books, that is my business. Great, Keith. Excellent. I love that. So here's the thing, that if I gave you like a movie recommendation or a book recommendation, right? And you go out and you see that movie and you're like, oh my gosh, it was such a good movie or such a good book. And you're forever going to attach me to that book. You're like, yeah, you gave me a really good book recommendation, or you gave me a really good movie recommendation. We loved it. We thought it was hilarious or whatever. Yeah, thanks so much, right? Has it ever happened the other way, where a friend of yours maybe gave a recommendation for a movie or a book that did not? You're like, why would you think I would like this movie? Right? Like, someone gave me a movie recommendation for Pulp Fiction. This is way back, if you guys remember that movie. I did not like that movie. I didn't get the movie. I didn't think it was funny. I just didn't get it, right? And I was like, what did you think of me that I would like that movie, right? I just didn't get it. So I'm just saying, for those of you, like, you and I will forever and always attach that person to that movie, right? So I'm just saying, this is what happens when you give people something of real value. They're always going to attach you to that value. It's something called reticular activation, right? It attaches a certain part of that to the emotion that existed in that person's mind. So I just want you to think about that. All right. So a couple real quick things. I know we're like way past getting started here at this point, but hopefully that makes some sense. I'm going to land the plane and put the fries in the bag and connect all those dots for you. But that was a really, really good question to lead us right out of the gate. So the question is right now, one I want you to ask you to do really quick. I always have these baseline discussions right out of the gate is please don't multitask. I'm going to be sharing a lot of information with you guys over the next roughly 45 minutes or so. And I just don't want you to multitask and miss anything particularly important. And yes, you will be getting a replay on this. So Eventbrite will be sending you its own replay, but we're going to be emailing you a replay from my email address from markdolfini.com. And that will have a link to this as a replay. So if you're interested, yes, it'll be there because I know it's always a question. And I know some of you have to hop off because you've got to pick kids up from daycare and after school stuff. And I know all the things. So I get that. So I just want to make sure that you know that in advance. Many people would say they don't read books anymore. That's true. Many people would. And you know what? And there's a massive industry that still sells books. And I will tell you that many people who are worried about writing long books, because I'm using air quotes here in case you can't see my screen, but people's attention spans are too short. That is wrong. It's not that people's attention spans are shorter. Okay. It's that they're lower. They have a lower threshold for boring. They don't want boring stuff because there's too many other options. So what that makes it, that instills upon you to be a better writer. And I write in a certain way that engages people in story. Okay. So again, that's a whole writing format. Maybe I do need to put a course together about actual writing because I feel like I've gotten really good at that over the years. But telling stories is what draws people in. Think about how things got passed along way, way, way back, even before writing really existed, before people were even as literate as they are now. Things got passed through story. So that's why I'm saying for you, passing lessons through stories is a fantastic way to engage people because it puts themselves in the story. Would this be beneficial for me if I am writing my memoir? Yes, this will. I put some things in there that are more relevant for business owners just because there's going to be a point here that I'm going to make here about actually promoting the book. So so if you're looking to write it, yes, this will still be relevant to you in some ways. There's a couple ways that are only specific to business owners. But yes, you're welcome to stick around, Septacia. So all right, so let's get to it. So you might be thinking, who am I to write a book? I don't know how to write a book. Where do I even start to write a book? I'm afraid of criticism and ridicule, and all these different stuff that is nothing more than simple head trash. So I just want you to set all that stuff aside. Don't worry about the critics. Don't worry about who might read it and who's going to give you criticism and all that. I'll tell you what, if you want to really worry about criticism, my 8th grade English teacher purchased and read my book. I was so worried that I was going to get it back, like with all these red marks on it and a big "see me" across the top. But she actually said that she enjoyed it. So I actually referenced her in the book. But she was a big help to me growing up for sure. All right, so let's talk about the agenda. We're going to talk about the whys, the wheres, and specific to writing, and we're also going to talk about the one most important thing, which by the way is promotion. I'm just going to tell you that right now. But you've got to have you've got to have the promotional aspect of it. Otherwise, after all of your friends and family buy your books, and you got left with 700 copies of that same book in your garage, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's what Mark was talking about. Ask me how I know. So that's it. Hallelujah. Okay, Ezekiel, you faced criticism and racism I faced criticism and racism for my ongoing book on digital platform. I'm sorry about that. I really, truly am. I don't think there's any place in this world for that stuff. So please, I hope you can get through that, Ezekiel, because that sucks. There's just no room for that in this day and age. There just isn't, or for any day and age, to be honest with you. It's difficult getting people interested in a 20-second introduction, how to grab them. This is why you've got to be able to grab them in your copy. And this is one of the things that I had learned from copywriting, specifically the skill of copywriting. This is not about persuasive writing. This is about drawing in a reader. And this is by being a good writer, you've got to be a good reader. Look at what the greats did. Look at how greats were able to write really long pieces of literature and how they drew the reader in. So again, beyond the scope of today, but I think I am going to put that together. Now, you guys have inspired me. Okay, thank you. I'm going to put together something about writing and how to draw readers in and stuff, because there's a specific way to do it that I think I can do in an hour. My book is regarding my marketing agency, so promotion hopefully should be easy. Just don't want them to purchase the book and not call for more. But they might, Sinead, right? The point is, if you have helped them, then they are going to hitch their wagon to you. So the fact is, I have had a lot of people buy my book. I never hear from them again, right? But have I helped them? I know I have, especially if they have read the book. So the reality is, the fact that they have bought your book and it sits on their bookshelf means that people just don't throw away books. They just don't. It's like a business card that never get thrown away. So I would be happy with that personally. And then we're going to talk about publishing the book, specifically the difference between other types of publishing. Self-publishing is pretty much the format that I've used. So these are all the books that I have written over the years. The first one at the top left is The Time Wealthy Investor. Then all the different piles of books. There's The Judge, The Time Wealthy Investor 2.0, the Time Wealthy Advantage, and then the 4 books at the bottom are only about 40 pages. So there's different books that serve different purposes, and these are books that I have done, and they all have different ISBN numbers and all these different things. So let's get to this. That's the Time Wealthy Advantage. That's the last major book that I've written, which is just under 300 pages, and it's about all of the systems and processes that you need when you're a small business owner operator, and how to manage the 4 core functions of business: lead generation, sales, operations, and accounting. So I'm really proud of that book. And the way that I went about marketing it and selling it, I was pretty much in the black within the first week of publishing that book. And I was pretty happy with that. Once people read my first book, then they would buy the next one I published. That's exactly right. And I have a lot of people who do buy subsequent books of mine. And the next book I'm writing is called Leader Boss. And people who've read The Time Wealthy Advantage were like, that was a really good book. Wow, that was really good. And I'm like, thank you. They're like, what do you write next? I was like, well, that one's around systems. The next one's around psychology and organizational psychology, specifically around leadership. So that's something that I'm looking really working on right now. Okay, so let's talk about the why. So let me just give you a quick framework in terms of how I view things, right? So the Viper framework is what I wrote about in the Time Wealthy Advantage. And that framework is the Viper method, which is vision, infrastructure, process, execution, and reporting. So I just want you to understand what this framework is. It's a top-down approach. It's a strategic approach. Okay, so just hang in there with me. I know if you're not here to learn business stuff, that's totally fine. But by the way, if you're writing a book to sell, you're kind of in business. So welcome to business. That's the way it works. So this is first and foremost, I want to get Ezekiel, I'll get to your question in just a second. So vision is specifically made up of 2 components. Vision is around your personal vision and your business vision. All right. So personal vision and business vision. Personal vision is specifically going to ask you a simple question of where is it that you want to go? Like, where specifically in your life, where do you want to go? It doesn't have anything to do with income generation. The business vision is, okay, great. How are you going to get there? So you might be thinking from the context of like, okay, this is where I want to go in life, right? This is the kind of life that I want to live from a day-to-day perspective. It doesn't really have anything to do with how I make money. And the business vision is going to deliver that personal vision to you, right? And here's the thing that I run into most people who want to sell books, most people who want to get into business for themselves, is they only come up with a business vision. And because they only come up with a business vision, the danger in that is when you create a business vision or a career vision before ever giving any sort of credence to a personal vision, you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. So let me say that one more time. The danger in creating a business vision before creating a personal vision is that you end up creating a life that exists to serve the business. I'm just letting you know that's an empty well that just never, ever gets filled. So I really want you to focus on that personal vision component. Like, think about that personal vision, about what it is that you want to accomplish if it didn't have anything to do with income generation. Ezekiel's question: how can I get people to read my books? It's a thriller action book, but major readers are not from my country. At first, they praise it when they view my profile and then delete comments or applause. So, how can you get people to read your books? I think the main thing is you're talking about promotion, and it's getting it in front of the right people. So this is where you might be questioning your avatar. So hang on just a second. We're going to talk about avatar here in just a hot second. But let me go back here really quick, just to because I don't think I go any further into the Viper methodology. But the vision is where you want to go, right? Both personal and business vision. Infrastructure is the desks, the chairs, the software, things like that. Process is simply how you do stuff from a day-to-day perspective, right? Both tactical and strategic. Tactical day-to-day, strategic is long-term planning. Then you got execution, and that's the stuff that you do every single day, like to make sure that you're executing on the things that need to be executing on, and not just busy work. And then reporting is just making sure that the things that you're doing are actually helping you get to the places that you want to go. So that is the Viper framework. I apologize. I just want to make sure that I hit that again, just in case because my slides are a little bit different this time. I just want to make sure I hit that. So let's talk. We talked about the 3 C's of business vision. There's core purpose, core values, and client avatar. So I want you to think about this not just in the 3 C's of business vision, but I want you to think of the 3 C's of your book vision: your core purpose, your core values, and your client avatar. Your core purpose is specifically, and this works for business or it works for books. So if you're writing that, what is the purpose of the business? What is the purpose of the book? Who are you specifically, what are you specifically writing about? And who are you directing this towards? Like, what's the problem you're looking to solve by writing this book? Are you looking to entertain? Are you looking to educate? What are you looking to do here with the purpose of the book? And there's many people who've written a book and just saying, I don't know, I just kind of want to be a published author. Okay, that's fine. But are you actually trying to look to change someone's life? Like, what's the purpose? What is the book about, and what problems are you looking to solve for people? If you're not clear on that starting out, it's not going to magically get more clear as you write the book, right? It just doesn't happen that way. It's important that you have a basic premise for how you're writing the book when you're starting out versus just kind of starting to write. Now, I don't have a problem with allowing the writing process to help hone that core purpose, but trust and know it's a lot easier when you can have that thought out in the beginning. When I wrote The Time Wealthy Investor, which is a book about managing rental properties, I knew what I was writing about when I started. I knew that straight away. And as a result, it still took me 2 years to write and edit and publish that book. But and I published other smaller books in between there. But when I wrote The Time Wealthy Advantage, that process was cut in half. It took me about a year from true start to true end to when I actually clicked submit and published that book. And I also did my own narration with my audiobook. So that's just something to consider. And because it was much more clear my core purpose, I was able to write it much, much faster. And it's a better product too, by the way. So that's about core purpose. So what is the purpose of the book, and what problems are you specifically trying to solve? Next is core values. Now, I know this sounds super, super squishy, but when I address the core values of my company, let's face it, Sinead, Keith, Ezekiel, Michelle, what your core values are simply an extension. Your business core values are simply an extension of your core values, right? So if you're looking at this book as a business, if you're looking at it truly as a business, then you might want to think, okay, well, what's the hill that I want to die on? Like, how would the world be worse off, right, if I didn't publish this book? Like, what is the difference I'm looking to make by publishing this book? And the reason why this is so important is because I'm going to be talking here in a little bit about the type of language you're going to be using, the type of messaging that you're going to put out there. Like, even if you're going to use, adult language in the book. Now, I'll use like PG-13 language. Not that, no, I'm a Marine. I can swear with the best of them. But I don't do that generally from stage, and I generally won't do that in my writing unless it serves a very specific purpose, which I know that my audiences are mature. They can handle rough language at times, but I don't do that just for the sake of having a loose tongue. I don't do that for shock value. So I'm just saying, like, my core purpose is that my core values, misspoke. My core values show up in my writing. People who have read my books are people who know me well and go, yeah, I can hear you saying this stuff because this is the stuff that I've heard in my consulting work with them, that I've heard in my coaching work with them, whatever, right? This is what stuff that they've heard from me. So it's not like they're reading a book and reading a stranger. That's what you don't want. So you got to make sure that your alignment, that your core values are well defined, and who you are as an individual is really important. Now, you might think, well, how do I define my core values? Think about it this way, Keith. Think about it if, for example, did you ever have a friend, Keith, or anyone that wandered off the reservation in life, and you just like, hey, look, man, I can't follow you. You're heading down a path I can't follow, right? Then maybe it happened with a relationship that you were in, and whatever that looked like. And you might say, hey, look, man, I can't follow you down that path because it represents a value that's a violation of a core value of mine. If a value, we all have values, right? I value peanut M&Ms. Am I going to go box someone over them? No, right? I also value my daughter. I also value my sons. I also value my bride. Someone comes for them, darn well know it's going to be ugly, right? Because that for me is a core value. So here's the difference. The difference is a value is a core value when you are willing to get up and act on it. That's the difference. So what are those things that mean so strongly to you that you would get up and act on it? For some of you, it might be politics. For some of you, it might be business stuff, right? For some of you, it might be faith. All of that stuff is great, but I'm just letting you know, where are your values? And generally you may have some, 6, 8, 10 of them, right, that are core values to you. But really, I think it's important when you define those things up front. That way, when you get into your writing, you're like, nope, that's a line I'm not willing to cross. And you can do it in a way that's authentic to you, and you will attract the avatar that's most like the ones that you're trying to attract. So now let's talk about client avatar. Client avatar is who specifically are you trying to attract? Who is it that you're trying to get to read this book, right? Or into your business in some way? Like, who are they specifically, right? And think about how they make buying decisions. Think about how they come to you, right? It's really important. Think about the ways that they think, their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, their aspirations and goals. When you start thinking about this in terms of your client avatar, now you're thinking about the people that are most likely to not only buy your book, more likely to read your book, because that's what they think. Why do you think I named this book The Time Wealthy Advantage? Because it's directed towards business owners, generally married business owners who have kids at home that are time weary. So when they read it, when they see a title cover that says The Time Wealthy Advantage, they're like, I don't even know what this book is about, but I feel like I need to buy it. Right now, the subheading is the true promise, right? We'll get into that here in a second. I'll show you here at the end. But the title is the hook, and the subtitle, the subheading, is the book promise, and I'll get to that. All right, so that's basically the crux of that. So let's talk. So that's the why. We got into the why a little bit. Why are you writing this? Who is it specifically for? The core purpose, the core values, and the client avatar. It's really important that you know what that is about. Okay, let's get to the where, and all the wheres to consider, right? So where are you going to write? That's really important, like where you're specifically going to write, because it's really important that you stop and think about and consider your best energy of the day. So I know this is like, a little bit granular about, certain things that you might not be thinking about, but I will tell you that when I wasn't just trying to write anywhere that I could, but I placed myself away from distractions specifically, it's amazing. If I don't place myself away from distractions, all of a sudden it's amazing how much cleaning that I'm going to get done all throughout the day. And maybe I'll go for a run, right? Maybe I'll just go skipping down the street, right? All these different things, right? This is why I want you to stop and think about where you're going to do this. It's going to place you away from all the distractions, because I will tell you, this is important to think about in advance, right? This is what's called a presupposition, because I want you to think of in advance, what are all the things that are going to derail me from writing when, like one of the things that I do when I write, I have a whiteboard that sits next to me with a marker, like just a little whiteboard, right? Why do I have that sitting next to me? So basically what I'm doing is, as I'm typing and I'm writing my book, and again, who has those random thoughts that come out all throughout the day, right? All throughout the day, standing in the shower, driving down the road, right? You know what I'm talking about. That's when you're in your alpha state, when you're coming up with lots of ideas. So I may come up with ideas around some other chapter, like, oh, that's something I really need to talk about. So I'll write down a little idea on the whiteboard. It's a little tiny whiteboard. It's not a big whiteboard. So I'll write that down. Me definitely. I get it. So I'll write those different ideas, right? I'll put those basically down on a whiteboard. And then later on at the end, after I've got that cumulative idea board, and as I'm done writing, I'm going to try to figure out a spot, and I might just type it into the document at the end and say, I just need to figure out where to put this stuff, because this is something I really want to put in. Or maybe I've already got some other chapters started, and I just kind of put that in like really big font and highlight it and say, I need to make a point around putting this in somewhere, right? Or maybe if you're writing a novel, say, oh, I really want this character to, have a baby later on, right? Or I really want this character to get married, or, something along those lines, but start to develop that. And that's where you have that plot, that lineation, right? And you can do that with also what's called author's notes. I'll talk about that here in a minute. But I just want you to start thinking about where is your best energy of the day. That's really going to be important, is where are you going to write? It's important that you stage the environment. And if it helps, put on music without any lyrics. That really, really makes a big difference for me. So that way I can kind of engage my alpha state. And my alpha state is basically where I'm kind of in that, kind of in that mojo. I'm in that daydreaming state a little bit. I've got a lot of ideas flowing, and that helps with that. So I just want you to think about that. And for those of you who are my ADHD prone, brothers and sisters out there, you might think of staging the environment in a really, really busy place. That's somewhere I've gotten some of my very best work done. If I go to a busy coffee shop, I know I'm going to get a lot of stuff done because it's almost too much information for me. So now I have to hyper focus. And that's something that's really, really worked well for me. Some of you may be really different. But not like in front of a television, but in front of like 50 televisions where you can't focus on any one thing because you can't hear any one television. That's what I'm talking about, because there was literally 75 different discussions going on around me. I couldn't hear any one of them. And that is where I was really able to focus my best, right? So it's really hard to focus on any one given thing. Keith Wood, I write historical novels. People are not switched on by the world historical, but they are much more than the genre suggests. Listen, there's a lot of people who've written that historical type of thing. It's just on how you deliver the message. Many times people write, they don't want to read it because you're telling things like storytelling is not event telling, right? It's like, well, let's say for argument's sake, if I was telling you a story, how I was leaving to go, we went to dinner, right? So I went into the car and I put the key in the ignition and I turned the key, and then I got in the car and I drove out of the driveway, and then I hit the button, and you're like, oh my gosh, dude, does this story have an ending? And then as you're driving, like, yeah, and then I went driving around, I put my left blinker on, then I went down, and then smash, I hit a deer. What? You hit a deer? Yeah. Right? That was the point of my story. Rather, when I said, oh my gosh, one time I smashed into a deer and the deer went through my windshield and landed in the back seat of my car. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I killed the deer. How did that happen? Well, let me tell you. First, I got in my car, started my engine, right? You see what I did there? Right? I changed the hook. That's how effective storytelling is, not event telling. And that's the difference that I would suggest for you, Keith. I know I'm wandering really off the Yellow Brick Road today. You guys are asking really good questions, though. I don't want to stop. So I'm letting you know right now, we're probably going to go a little long, but you will get the replay. But that's a really good question. Hopefully that helps you, Keith. Jasper, I have a question. I realize that there is a range of clients to think about, but one thing that helped me single out who my true client is myself. That is very true. I happen to be a member of the avatar that I serve. That is very, very good, Jasper. What do you think about my client avatar as myself and people similar and very similar to me? I'm telling you, it would be really hard for you to write a book about an avatar you don't know anything about. Like for me, my avatar, again, they tend to be, if I'm going to be honest with you, they tend to be Christian. They tend to be married. They tend to have a lot of kids. They tend to be business owners, and they tend to be very busy. So I am 53. I have several businesses. I'm married to my bride. We have a 20-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 3-year-old. Yes, if I'm 53 and have a 3-year-old. And I'm also in a PhD program. Am I a busy individual? Oh, and I'm writing my 9th book right now. Coming, hopefully, it should be done in the spring. Am I a busy individual? Am I a member of my avatar class? Yes. If I was writing a book about giving birth, I would know nothing about that, right? Because guess what? I've not ever given birth. I have no idea. I've experienced that, and I'm like, wow, that looks terrible. I'm glad I can't do that. So I'm just saying, like, it's helpful that you're a member of your avatar, but I would also look for people, Jasper, that share you as an avatar. That way you can source them for information. Okay. I get at 3 a.m. and write for 4 hours before the phone rings, right? Mel's arrived. That's great, Keith. Is it Michelle? I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I will say Michelle. Jazz in the background. That is exactly what I do too. Or you know what I actually like in the background, Michelle, is I like the sound of city in the background, like New York State. I love that sound in the background. So that is, for me, that's really, really helpful. Is it a bad thing if my inspiration switches off for some months? No, it is not. It's actually normal, Ezekiel. And this is why it's important to have different, just recognize you're in different seasons at different periods of time. Okay. Let's see. I honestly just want to write my view on our life as humans. Probably no one wants to read that, but I feel that you write it anyway. Listen, I think if you're passionate about it, this is why it's also important to have beta readers, because when you have beta readers, this is really helpful for you to establish what is readable. And your beta readers should be someone who knows you well, is probably a member of your avatar group, and will give you really, really good feedback. So that's going to be, I'm sorry, Michiel. Is it phonetically? Michiel. Okay. I'm going to work on that. I promise. My last name is Dolfini. It's not that hard, but everybody seems to want to truncate it and call me different things. But Michiel. All right. Very good. Thank you. I do appreciate that. So, so staging the environment, again, music with no lyrics. That's really helpful. Let's see. So where are you going to write? This is something we talked about already. Where are you going to save it? I know this is about where, but it's really important that you say specifically where you're going to save this and how you're going to save multiple copies. So I want you to think about that, save it and back it up. And how are you going to manage conflict copies? So think about this. Generally, if I was going to save it today, I would save, this is copy 11-24-25. And then any subsequent copies, I would save it to the cloud. I would save it to my desktop. I would save it to thumb drives, and save them as often as you can. Because as sure as God made little green apples, you're going to be done with this thing and then realize, oh crap, I have a conflicted copy and I'm not sure which one is right. So at the end of each session, I really encourage you to save these in as many different places as you possibly can. And where are you going to capture your ideas? Because I will tell you again, you'll be standing in the shower, you'll be standing at the, you'll be driving down the interstate, you'll be, riding on your lawnmower or walking along the treadmill or something. And these ideas are going to come up. Where are you going to capture these ideas? So I have, notes on my computer or on my phone that I can capture notes. I can capture voice notes and things like that. But make sure that you transfer those to your desktop copies regularly. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with a whole mess in your phone with 3 or 4 different notes and all these different emails you're sending to yourself. Just make sure you have a consistent way in terms of how you're going to copy and capture your ideas. So that is the where. Let's talk about the writing. Okay. The writing specifically, I've talked a lot about the writing. You guys are asking really amazing questions. Thank you for your trust and for sticking around, even if this isn't entirely relevant to you specifically at the time. Michiel, my books are the same, and they are sorting. I think you meant starting to sell. If you want a beta reader, you've got one. Excellent. I love that you guys would do this for each other. I may actually put together a writing, corner, like not a writing course. I already said I'm going to put that together, but just basically people who just want to hold each other accountable. Listen, you guys hold each other accountable to that, especially make sure that, but as long as they are alignment with the avatar that you're trying to read to. Because again, it would make no sense for like a 17-year-old boy to read a book that's directed towards 38-year-old divorced women. It would make no sense, right? So you want to make sure that that those avatar and the beta readers are aligned. Okay. I've always had an easy access to a recorder from a studio or conversation with a significant other. Excellent, Tyrese. AI changed your name. Al, change your name, not me. It is relevant. Okay. Oh, that would really be good. Okay, I'm glad you would like that, Sinead. All right. So decide on your point before you start. I kind of talked about that earlier on about the core purpose. That's really important to make sure that you're thinking about this, but decide on a pace and a rhythm in advance of even before you start your point. So how long are the chapters going to be? Get a sense of how long the book is going to be, right? How often are you going to write? What are some metrics and a word count that you're going to shoot for every day? Look, if you're looking for, like my books, generally my longer books will be around 60,000 words. And that's, I don't know the font size off the top of my head, and I generally type in Times New Roman. I think they're size 11 or 12. I think the font, I don't remember exactly, but that's generally around a 300-page book. That's roughly 60,000 words. So if you start thinking of it in that context, you're like, okay, well, maybe I want, maybe you just want a larger book that reads easier depending on the avatar. I've written a book called The Judge, which was about a 90 plus page book. And that book was fantastic. And people really enjoyed that book. And it worked out really, really well for folks because it read really fast. They could read it in almost like a long bathroom session or a flight. like they could read it really quickly. And it was really fun to read because it was a really engaging story. So I want you to think there's just different purposes why you might be writing. And I just read it. I wrote that book as a giveaway. I was traveling a lot and I wanted a smaller book that I could hand to people and give it away. And people really enjoyed that book, right? Or old school, a pen and pad. I like to write that way, but I type much faster. That's why I like to type, because it gets me typing a lot, much faster. I pulled over many times to write down ideas. I do suggest that also for when you lay down at night. If you're the type of person that has all these different ideas when you lay down at night, I do prefer pen and paper, because the blue light will actually awaken you, and you don't want that during that time of night. Maybe it sounds weird. Sometimes I feel like I can get a co-writer, but when I get one, they don't just see what I see. They're not standing where I stand. I don't know if you get. Yeah, I get exactly what you're talking about. This is why I don't really co-write with people. Not that I would be opposed to it. I have some people in my circle right now that really align with who I am. I would write books with them because they're really aligned with my core values. But that's also why it's important to identify your core values, Ezekiel. Really good. Okay, good. I'm glad that you're learning a lot. Nicole, I can use my phone to record voice notes. Yeah, and that's exactly what I do too. I like to go voice to text though, because my voice notes will get lost and I don't have a way of categorizing them. All right, so let's get to so deciding on the point in advance. That's obviously really, really important, so you don't get lost in your own words. Again, I will say this, and I know right now it's really popular to use AI to write. Here's the thing though, is that AI can be used to help generate ideas for sure. I don't like leaning on AI to write my stuff. If I want to be a good writer and I want to be a good engaging writer, I'm not going to use AI for that. I want to learn how to hook people by being a good writer, not by being good at entering prompts. So that's just for me. I put in here deciding on the language. Look, are you going to be formal or informal? There is someone who I'm working with right now a little bit, just a friend, and she has a wonderful story to tell. But she writes, and she's got an engineering brain, like super, like ridiculously smart, and super, super smart. And she writes, like I'm reading this, what is really a heartfelt story, but it sounds like I'm reading a legal brief. I was like, oh my gosh, like, do you realize how you wrote this thing? And she's like, yeah, it's how I'm used to writing. I'm like, okay, look, I'm learning to write in APA 7 style as a PhD student, but I got to set that aside when I'm writing ad copy, because writing ad copy, guess what? Grammar goes out the window. A punctuation goes out the window. All that stuff goes out the window because it's all about readability. So just understand, it's like people who speak fluent French can switch and start speaking fluent Spanish, right? And that's what I'm saying. Like, you've got to be able to switch that on and off. So I would decide on the language when in your writing, depending on the type of writing style that you want to do. And here's what I want to encourage you guys. This is about constant reinvention. And you've all reinvented yourselves at one point in time or another. And you're continuing to reinvent yourself. But I'm telling you to lean into reinvention. What do I mean by that? Look, when you graduated from high school, you had to reinvent yourself. When you graduated from college, you probably had to reinvent yourself then. When you became a spouse, you reinvented yourself. When you became a parent, I can guarantee you reinvented yourself. There's lots of things that you have to do and reinvent yourself. And here's what I'm telling you is that you're learning to reinvent yourself as a writer in this certain genre. So reinvent yourself. Embrace it. Embrace that you're probably going to have to read other stuff to expand who you are and the methodology and frame in which you think. And there's nothing wrong with that. So the sooner you can just lean into reinvention but stay within a set of core values that are true to you, that's really critical. And that's really going to change things for you. So deciding on the language, went off on a tangent there, but deciding on a language, formal versus informal, swearing versus not. Again, like I said, I don't think there's a spot for swearing, but look, it depends on your avatar. For me, I can do it without swearing. Technical versus a story. Phonetics, like, are you going to write out the British accent, or are you going to write out the Southern drawl? Or if it's a 3-year-old talking, are they going to talk like, are you going to write the way they actually talk? That's important to decide on that language in advance. Okay. So how are you going to determine that? Think about that in advance. And also decide on who your accountability partner is going to be. I'm looking at you. It ain't me, right? And it should not be someone you're married to. Listen, I've been an accountability person for people in the past, right? I'm just saying, like, I couldn't be that if you want me to be, right? There's costs for that, but I'm just saying, make someone your accountability partner and have a real thing for that. Like, ideally not someone you're married to, because guess what? If I ask my bride, hey, make sure that I don't eat all the chocolate ice cream, and she comes and smacks the spoon out of my hand, I'm going to be a little salty towards her, right? So I'm just saying, like, decide on an accountability partner, and that's why a good group can help do that for you, okay? And really making sure that you're actually getting the writing done. AI doesn't have the feeling of the author's idea or story. No, AI has that organic feel. You're right. I don't believe that AI has that organic feel. I mean, you can, to a certain degree, program it that way. But again, you want it to be in your voice. And if you want to get better at it, I think that you develop that as a muscle. Deciding on language. Do I need to interpret a dialogue that's in a different language to English in my book, or should I leave it to the readers to find out by themselves? Look, Ezekiel, I think if you leave too much interpretation, that's going to slow the reader down. Like, again, this is like if I was going to start to use really, really big language in this presentation here, you're going to have to, like, what does he mean? You're going to have to go, and now you're Googling, now you're trying to figure out what I meant. Look, the easiest language to read is between a 5th and 7th grade level. So I'm not saying you dumb it down for the reader, but if you're about making it readable, you have to recognize that simple sentence structure and 5th to 7th grade, which means no words over 2 syllables, or very, very few words over 2 syllables. I'm not saying, listen, if you want to write something more technical and you want to sound smart and this is the way it is, fine. Just letting you know, it reduces readability. So you be the judge of what you want to do. Military was definitely a reinventing of myself. Yeah, for same with me, Tyrese. When I got to boot camp, from Marine boot camp, when I was 20, and I thought I knew everything. They told me otherwise. All right, good title, Reinvent Yourself. That is a good, yeah. Maybe that'll be a topic of a book sometime. Good AI is dumbing creative writers down. I think you're right, Keith. I'm 78 and just redirected myself. Yep, very good. AI equals yawn. Michelle, I like it. Redirected and should be resurrected. Yep. I like that. I have a few ideas just being in the room. Excellent. I love that. Plus having a vivid imagination. That is always helpful, right? All right, Ezekiel. Very good. All right. Thanks so much for the love, guys. I really appreciate the engagement too. Sometimes I get on here and I'm like, is this thing on? Can you guys hear me? All right. Really, really good. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about writing. 99.4% of people will not finish a book that they start, according to the statistic that I just made up on the spot. But I don't know what the statistic is, but it's pretty high, because a lot of people tell me, oh, I always want to write a book someday. Let's talk about it. I'm like, yeah, but you got to actually start on it. Okay. So I'm just letting you know that statistic is probably pretty true. The point is, start and keep going, make the commitment to yourself that you're going to keep going on this. And you're not going to stop, even on the days you don't feel like doing it. In fact, those are the days you probably should be doing it the most. Make sure you stay organized as best you can. Stay organized in your thoughts. You can use index cards. You can use something called mind mapping software. If you go to mindmup.com, that is like $25 a year. And it literally kind of uses the old school. If you're 78, Keith, you might remember when you would use index cards to kind of put your thoughts down and kind of organize them that way. It's the same thing with mind mapping software. It's really good. And you can kind of use different nodes. It's really good to use just to keep different thoughts. And I actually do that for putting together presentations just like this. I use it for my books. I use it for courses that I put together and all these different things. So it also helps you with future pacing. So what is future pacing? Future pacing is when it's also with callbacks, future pacing and callbacks. I'll explain both of them here in a second. But when you have to say, like, hey, in chapter 17, we're going to talk about blah, blah, blah. You got to make sure you deliver. Okay. And it's the same thing with callbacks. So if you said, hey, back in chapter 11, we talked about this thing, you got to make sure that those things are connected. So what I will do is I will actually do this as discussed in chapter X. I will put X. I won't put the number of the chapter. And then what I will do is I will highlight it. So I'll highlight that. That way, when at the very end, when my final editing is going through, I'm going to go through and say, as described in chapter X, I'm like, oh, what chapter was that? Oh, that was chapter 11. So I'll go back, make sure it's in chapter 11, and then I'll type in 11. I remove the highlight, and I know that that's been cleared. Does that make sense? That's really important, because if you mess that up, no one's going to tell you, and I will tell you an editor will never catch that. So it's really important that you get that stuff. Question, do you sell autographed books? Yes, I do. I would like a few if possible. Will there be a replay of this? Yes, Teresa, will be a replay. Yes, I do sell autographed copies of the book. I'll explain that at the end. If I don't answer it, make sure I do. I write in Yorkshire dialect and put on an appendix to explain proper English. Okay, if that works. I would ask your beta readers that, Keith, if that works for them, because I'm not sure how that would work for me. But I might not be your avatar, so that's fine. I have scenes in my head. Hope it's crazy. I find myself in my main lead's shoes. Yeah, when it comes, I put that scene into writing. Yeah, that's not uncommon at all. That's not uncommon at all. You're more than welcome, Therese. Okay, so those are future pacings and callbacks, citations and resources. Look, I don't get super hung up right now. Like I mentioned, I'm in a PhD program, and they're all about citation rules, APA 7, and all that. That's horrific. But listen, I think it's really important that if you are going to cite another person's, whether it's direct quotations or whatever, make sure that you're putting citations, whether that's on a resources page at the end or actually directly in line with the book. I prefer both, and I will put not only the citations in there in the writing itself, but I will also make a recommended reading or resources page at the end. So that's the one that I prefer, is to use both. Use of writer's notes. A writer's note is, let's say that you're getting writing, and I mentioned this earlier, but a writer's note is I will literally write in capital letters, and I'll indent it. I'll call it writer's note. So I'm typing along, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I got an idea. Writer's note. And I'll put a colon. So I've indented it, writer's note, all caps, and then I write out my idea. Hey, this character should totally, get into a car wreck later on. And then they have this big epiphany and, develop this later, right? So I'm typing this out, and then I'll highlight it so it's easier for me to see. So as I'm scrolling, that writer's note, now that is ultimately going to get deleted from the final edit, but I want to make sure that I take that lineage and put it somewhere else in the book. Okay. So that just helps me develop, the character later on, again, so that theme stays true all the way out through the character development. So just something that I do. Let's see. And then just writing as an actual craft. It's beyond the scope of this lesson. Like I said, I think I am going to put something together. I got some ideas right now. Thank you guys. You guys have been helpful. You guys have really good questions too, by the way. I know I've said that before, but keep them coming. You guys are good. So one of the things I really would encourage you is educating yourself. These are 3 books that I absolutely love. Anne Lamott is a flippin' hoot. She's just funny. She's a very funny writer. I just kind of want to be her friend, but I'm pretty sure that I'm probably way too conservative for her, but she's just very funny. I like her writing. She wrote Bird by Bird, and I really like her writing. Stephen King on writing. Stephen King, even though I'm not into that horror genre at all, I've never read any books like that. But he wrote a book about writing, and his stuff is really funny too. I really enjoyed both of those books, Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird, and Stephen King on writing. This is a book I recommend it only because one of my people who've helped me, she was a beta reader. She recommends On Writing Well by William Zenzer. I have not read that book yet, but it's in my stack of shame. I'll get to it eventually, but she really recommends it. And if it's good enough for her, it's certainly good enough for me to recommend. So I would recommend those 3 books in terms of actually getting better on your writing craft. Okay. All right. Episodes in summary and then expand them. It helps me a lot. Very good, Ezekiel. I can't stay in too much longer. Sinead, we're going to, we've already got your email. We're going to send it to you. So Sinead, if you have to go, just know that when you leave, we're going to talk about you a lot. No, I'm just kidding. If you have to go, I won't even notice that you're gone. But I promise we will send you a copy of that. Let's see. This is awesome room. It should be longer. Okay. All right. So we talked about the writing. Let's talk about the most important thing, which is promotion. Do not wait until the book itself is published, right? If you wait, you have waited way too long. It's like waiting to prepare the nursery, like until the baby's there, right? Like that's way too long, right? So you have to get, you can get snippets released prior. You can do that on social media. You can get book buyers gathered in Facebook groups, and those are the things that start to deliver that buzz. I will try to stay on as long as I can. Very good. I love Karen Kingsbury's books. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So again, this is where you start to deliver that generate that buzz and that promotion, but you want to do that early. Way beyond the scope for promotional piece, promotion here in this session. But there's ways to do that, and social media is probably one of the better ways. But I just think that there's ways that you can do that where you can just take a snippet from the book, release that with a engaging photo, and just say, to be released in spring of 2026 or something along those lines. I think that would be really, really good. So let's talk about publishing. You could work with an agent, you can self-publish, or you can use a hybrid model, which is kind of like work with an agent, but you still have some rights to self-publishing and all these different things. Personally, I have only self-published. I have looked at working with an agent. I'm not opposed to it for certain projects in the future, but I just want to let you know, like I've published everything that I've done so far has been self-published. But I'm just letting you know, whatever you don't pay for in dollars, you give up in foreign control. So if you're not paying someone to do a certain thing, you're giving them up in control. So in other words, if you're saying, hey, look, I'm going to allow you to do all the promotion and marketing, you're giving it up in intellectual rights. So for me, I didn't want to do that. For you, you might say, no, it's a story. What do I care? Like, I don't mind doing that, right? So I'm just letting you know, when you are publishing, and if you're doing self-publishing, you're doing all the book cover design, you're doing the title and the subtitle. All these things are really, really important. So I want you to think about that. Like when you're doing the book title, okay, the time wealthy advantage, that's the hook. Okay. So that's the hook, the time wealthy advantage. So people are like, oh, what is that? So the subheading is basically the promise. So here's the time wealthy advantage, and it's a strategic approach to building the life and business you want. That's the promise. That lets people know, oh, that's what he's promising. That's the subheading. Make sure the subheading delivers. Now, you got to make sure when you're doing this, what I do is I test. So you want to test the market. The title's the hook, the subtitle is the promise. So this is how you test. I came up with several different iterations of a book subheading that I wanted. And it's like, okay, so I tested a business owner's 5-step strategic blueprint to freedom. That was A. Then I tested a business owner's strategic blueprint to freedom. That was B. Okay. Then I tested it. And there was only very small portion like A, many people like B. And I was like, okay, let me come up with C. So then it was like, okay, strategic approach to building the life and business that you want. That was C. So I tested B against C, and many people liked C. Far more people like C, like 75% of people like C. That's how I decided on the subheading. Okay. And guess who I asked? That's right. I asked people who are most likely to represent my avatar. Would it make sense for me to ask 5th graders? No, because a 5th grader is not going to read this book. I want to ask, would it make sense to ask my mom, like if she would? No, because she wouldn't be my avatar, right? And my mom's passed away, but I'm just saying, like, would it make sense? You got to be careful, because you might put a disproportionate amount of weight on people who are closest to you, but if they don't represent the avatar, you've got to be careful. So I asked people all across spectrum, across that. Now, of course, just be prepared. I sent it to my 2 best friends who are both in business for themselves. But then I was like, then they started giving me like, oh, move this word, change that word. I'm like, stop giving me different iterations. I just need you to know, vote on A or B, right? And then B or C. So I'm not saying that I was closed off to new ideas, but eventually this is not by committee. This was truly by a vote. And this is what people voted for overwhelmingly, like 2 to 1 in favor of that, more than 2 to 1. So that's where I came up with the subheading. So you want to test that. You would want to test that. And that's also how I came up with the book cover, right? This is not the book cover I picked when I saw. There was another one, It was super cool. No one wanted it. I was like, damn it, right? Don't you really like this one though? They're like, no, we like the gold one. I was like, damn it, right? No, I'm not salty about it, right? I'm actually pretty happy. But the thing was, like, when I first saw it, I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. But there was people who noticed right away, like they noticed that there was a Ben Franklin on the watch cover. I was like, oh, I never even saw that. They noticed it. They noticed it right away. So that's what I'm saying. That's what they want. They're the buyers. They're the ones who should be making that decision, not you. All right. I know you're like, oh my gosh, that's tough to swallow, but that's the reality. Okay. Love horror genre. I'm glad you do, Tyrese, because I can't do that. It internalizes too much in my head. How do you determine who your avatar is? Go back to the beginning, right? We talked a little bit about, who these people are, who specifically this book is written for. You want to think about geographics, where they are. You want to think about their demographics, who they are. Are they married? Are they single? Are they wealthy? Are they poor? Are they educated? Right? Are they not educated? Right? Think about that from the demographics, and then think about their psychographics, their attitudes, their lifestyles, their interests, and their aspirations and goals. That's how you determine your avatar. There's a whole other course around building that out. But I'm just letting you know that, like, you really need to start to think about who this typical reader is, and then start interviewing those people that are in your life that likely represent your avatar. Okay, that's a great way to do it. So publishing, we're going to talk about this really quick, and then we're going to put the fries in the bag. So Amazon or KDP is generally where I'm most familiar with. There are other self-publishing platforms. I'm just letting you know I'm not as familiar with those. But Amazon and KDP is super easy to use. I have used those obviously multiple times, 8 different times. I'm working on the 9th. Like I said, this is where, you can utilize the Amazon and KDP platform to self-publish. There are 3 main pages on there. I go through this on the paid course. I have a paid course, like I mentioned, on how to do that, or you can just kind of fumble through it on your own. I'm just letting you know there's certain things that have to be filled in the right way. If it's not the end of the world, but there's just certain things that you want to do and make sure you're doing right. The ISBN, every book that's published, with the exception of ebooks, has an ISBN number. That's the International Standard Book Number. International Standard Book Number. Okay, so that is what an ISBN is. You can either allow Amazon to assign an ISBN, but you give up some rights, right? Which you don't pay for in dollars, you give up in rights. So you may not be allowed to publish it outside of Amazon. So they retain some rights by holding that ISBN. So for you, again, I would suggest go to Bowker, where you can buy an ISBN. It's a total racket. I'm letting you know that right now. You can buy 5. You can buy 1 for like 120, or you can buy 5 for like 250. Yeah, it's a racket. I'm just letting you know. Or you can buy like 10,000 or like 1,000 for like, $3,000. It's such a racket, but it is what it is. And if you want to buy one, you can do it that way. So, so the other thing is on Audible. I'm just letting you know, again, way beyond the scope of this, but if you are going to publish something on Audible, you actually have to have something published on ebook before you can actually put it on Audible. So, so buy those in bulk. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that, Tyrese. Nona, so much that you have said made me smile on the inside. Just knowing the things I'm going through really is a thing. Yes, it's not just my crazy brain. It's all of our crazy brains. Writer's notes and those random everyday thoughts of being part of my own avatar group and saving thoughts for a different chapter or different character development. Yep, absolutely. Also about really thinking about the best time and space to write. I'm glad this was helpful for you. And I know we're getting a little bit long, but we're almost done here, so just hang in there. From Bowker, yes, Bowker. That's the website. And you have to hunt around for it in terms of buying it, but in the course, I actually show you how to do that. So, but you can just hunt around for it. It's not that hard. It's just took me a while to figure that out. So, I just want to let you know though, if you are planning on doing an ebook, if you're planning on doing Audible, you have to have an ebook published. And the reason you have to have an ebook published is because it uses the segmentation of the chapters to attach that to the Audible, which makes sense. But I'm just letting you know, like, I didn't know that. So I was planning on releasing this book. I'm like, cool, I'm going to do it. I've already recorded the Audible. I'm like, cool, that's great. So this has already been published. I'm recording it. I'm done. I go to click like send. And they're like, you need an ebook. I was like, son of a gun. Like, I was like, okay. So I go back out and I have to do all this other stuff. And then it takes a while. It took like 10 to 14 business days to get the Audible approved because it's got to go through all these checks. And I was like, oh, okay. Didn't know that either. So that's why it's pretty rare you're going to see a book, a physical book, and an ebook and an Audible all released on the same day. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but I just kind of wanted to get this book published and get it out there. But in order for me to do that, I had to have a published ebook, and I don't think I could have released the Audible if I didn't have a published ebook. So it's going to take, so there's almost always going to be like a 2-week gap. It's just, I think it's just the way it is. I don't think you can get around that. If there is, I don't know. You can tell me I'm wrong. So then I just want you to consider revisions. The one thing I like about being on Audible, or I'm sorry, being on KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, is that if there's mistakes, you can make corrections and resubmit. However, there's always a however. They will pre-print several dozen, maybe 100 copies of this book. So when I click publish and it's like 72 hours and they say approved, there's like several that go to the printing press. However many, I have no idea. Maybe they just look at however many usually people buy whenever I print, and then they go, okay, cool, we're going to pre-print a couple hundred. So whatever. So what I noticed is I had a small error on this book. And then when the person came back around and said, or when I read it, I was like, oh, darn it, there's a small error on the book. So it took a while for those errors to work themselves through the inventory that was in there. It wasn't a big deal. In fact, no one would ever notice. I noticed, and I changed it. So I just wanted to let you know that there may be some printing lag, and that's why errors may not be fixed right away. So if you go through a printed copy, I would always suggest getting a proof copy sent to you first, so you can flip through it, make sure that all the words are landing in the right place. But once you click submit and it's published, just changes go slower, right? I'm just letting you know it takes a while for them to work through. I also want you to recognize there are limitations to editors, that they're not going to catch. They're just not going to catch everything. They're not going to catch poor character development, things like that. I mean, some editors will, but I'm just letting you know they're humans. They're looking at grammar. They're looking at commas. They're looking at the common stuff. But if you made a promise earlier on, like, oh, I'm going to get you, and at the end of it, they don't get them, now you've kind of you've had this open loop that's never been closed, right? All right. So here is something I just want to give you guys for free. If you guys are interested, you can go to this website, which is it's a Facebook group. And this is, I'm just letting you know, it's more of a business oriented avatar. I know it's not necessarily writing, but if you are interested in joining that, Michelle will go ahead and put that up in the group. So you're welcome to join us there. Just don't be a jerk. It asks if you're a jerk. So if you self-identify as a jerk, do not come because you will not be allowed. All right. So if you would also like stuff like this, if you are a business type person and you'd like, my suggestion is go to Eventbrite. Yes, we're going to be emailing. I do my very best to try to keep everybody straight, but unfortunately, there's a lot of y'all and just one of me, and I have some help, and which is really amazing help, but we do make mistakes sometimes, so I just want to make sure that you guys know that. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to offer you guys, this is a free course, 100% free. You do not need to, there's like, all you have to do is enter your email address in, and this is the Writing and Publishing Introductory course. So in the introductory course, if you are interested, it does not cost you a thing. It will walk you through some Audible stuff. It'll walk you through some ebook stuff. There's going to be talking about different revisions. Oh, hang on a second. Why did that do that? Where'd you go? Oh, hold on. Oh, my slides got messed up. Hold on a second. Let's go back to this. Here we go. Oh, what happened to my slides? Okay, here's what happened. So we'll just talk about the introductory course. If you go, I'll go ahead and pull that up just so you guys can get it. But if you want, you can go to strategicboardroom.com, and it's under courses and logins. And if you scroll down just a little bit under free courses and downloads, it's the very first one about writing and publishing a book. I'm going to put the information in here right now. Let me find you. There we go. Up there, Michelle's got us. Okay, perfect. So that is the link to that. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to go to Strategic Board to sign it. Once you've already signed up for this, to sign into it again, you just go to strategicboardroom.com, courses and logins, and it's right there. Just look for the one that is the free course. Okay. If you're interested in the longer form one, which is, again, this one's a little bit more advanced. And I do want to show you this one. I'm going to take this down since I'm just going to take a few minutes and just show you what's on the inside of the paid course. And it's not a lot of money. Let me just go ahead and find this, and I will stop the share. And I'm going to end the slideshow. All right, just give me a second. I'll move this over for you. Here. All right. So in this, okay. So let me pull that up. So what this is, it walks you through, and the paid course actually includes both the free course and the writing course. I'm going to actually show you what the free course looks like by going into the paid course. So you'll be able to see what's all in there and just see if it's worth your time or not. That way you know you can spend the time on it. All right, so this is what the inside of the course looks like once you guys get logged in. Get back to where you guys are at. And here. Sorry guys, I meant to have this set up and I completely spaced it. There we go. Okay, so this is the inside of the advanced writing and publishing course, and this is the introduction here. So it's just a couple of videos, like just says, hey, this is where to start, and this is all the first, I think, 8 lessons, I believe. These are all videos about, why write a book. This is, the different wares, the kind of the things that we talked about in this session. When you start writing, a lot of the things that we talked about in this course already, but it does get a little bit more granular. Things to start to think about around promotion, publishing basics, the mistakes to avoid early on in the process, and then there's a webinar just like this that's in there. In fact, I'll probably put this one. This has probably been the most granular questions I've ever answered. I'm probably going to put this session up in its place because this has been a really, really good session. So thank you guys for being a part of that contribution. But this is where the lesson 8 is where it starts. The advanced writing publishing course begins here. So this gets into advanced promotion and gets really more granular on getting clear on the who. And this is a book promotion template. It really kind of walks you through different areas, and that's just free. Or well, it's like I said, you just got to click on that and you can download it. But the advanced promotional tactics, this is a little bit more different stuff, social media promotion. Then it starts to get into delivery, and someone had asked about I think it was you, Tyrese, that had asked about my specific books, if I do autograph them and then send them out. I do, and the best way to get a hold of those is actually to go to strategicboardroom.com and buy them directly off the website. The reason why is because when you buy them directly from the website, not only are they cheaper, but I can sign them. But that's only if you're domestic US. If you're outside the United States, I can't sign them. There's just too many different variables. But my best suggestion there would be to go through Amazon. The only thing is I don't know who buys them on Amazon. So my suggestion is if you are looking for an autographed copy and you're in the domestic United States, go to strategicboardroom.com. It's right on the main page. You shouldn't have trouble finding them. So different delivery ideas, how to get your ISBN. I walk you through specifically how to do that and what to fill in. Publishing on KDP. This is the longest part of it because there's 3 main pages in there. And then the ebook formatting, how to actually format the ebook and all the different chapters and subchapters. And then uploading your ebook to KDP, how to do that. And then what you need to know, like how to prepare to narrate, and then actual narration and how to sound engineer your stuff on Adobe Audition. That's about just a little over half an hour. And then more stuff on narrating on Adobe. Oh, no, that's the same one. Oh, I gotta fix that. All right, so that's the basics. So yeah, I gotta fix that last. Looks like there's a duplicate there. But anyway, this session is currently under beta. What that means is that it's still being worked up through. Obviously, you see I've got some stuff I got to put in there. So for that, it's got a beta price, and that is $17. So if you think that you would get value from that, just go to this link right here, and you would just go in and you can go ahead and do that. If you do, and this one I can offer to everybody, if you buy this and you buy it today, okay, so before midnight Eastern time, I'm not going to set an alarm, but if you buy it today, I will throw in a 30-minute session with you, a coaching session with me. So you got to buy it today. So don't come tomorrow and say, hey, I bought it. Buy it today. It's $17. So again, really quick, just let me show you how to get logged in, just in case this is the only time we talk. But in case you log out, I'm going to show you how to get to it again, just so you know. But you go to strategicboardroom.com. Let me share my screen one more time, and then we will be done with this. And I really want to appreciate you guys who've stuck around through this whole thing today. But this is strategicboardroom.com. If you want your free copy, or if you want the signed copy of your book, not free, but if you want to see your signed copy, click that link right there on the front where it says get your copy now. That's pretty straightforward. But up here, see where it says courses and links right here? Okay. You want to go up there, click that courses and logins, scroll down a little. Okay. The paid one is right here. Okay. Advanced Writing and Publishing course. That's how you log in. If you want to click on that link over here to the right, that's how you get signed in for it. That's how you pay for it. If you want to go down to the free stuff, again, it says free. Here's the free thing. Log in, you sign up for it on the right. You click in all subsequent on the left. Okay. All right. That is all I have, everybody. Thank you so very much for sticking around. Let's see. Any other last questions? You're in USA. Okay, very good, Tyrese. You can't hear me? Okay. Well, I think everybody else can hear me. I think you are, Sinead. Michelle, can I get a thumbs up? Can you still hear me? Yep, I'm getting a thumbs up. Okay. Yes, I think so. Okay. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Look forward to the email coming out. Look forward to hearing from you guys again in the future in terms of how your writing is going. And we'll catch up again real soon. Have a great rest of the day. We'll see you guys next time. Take good care.